Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of My JavaScript Story. This week we're talking to Vitali Zaidman. Vitali, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody.
You want to just give a brief introduction, let people know who you are, why you're famous, all that stuff?
Yes, I'm working in a software solutions company. It's called WellDone Software. We're located in Tel Aviv, Israel.
Cool.
Lately I started writing about JavaScript. I have this very, very famous blog post that was seen by like half million of people. And I built a couple of very complex websites. I'm in charge of two very interesting projects right now. And that's me.
This episode is sponsored by Sentry.io. Recently, I came across a great tool for tracking and monitoring problems in my apps. Then I asked them if they wanted to sponsor the show and allow me to share my experience with you. Sentry provides a terrific interface for keeping track of what's going on with my app. It also tracks releases so I can tell if what I deployed makes things better or worse. They give full stack traces and as much information as possible about the situation when the error occurred to help you track down the errors. Plus, one thing I love, you can customize the context provided by Sentry. So, if you're looking for specific information about the request, you can provide it. It automatically scrubs passwords and secure information, and you can customize the scrubbing as well. Finally, it has a user feedback system built in that you can use to get information from your users. Oh, and I also love that they support open source to the point where they actually open sourced Sentry if you want to self-host it. Use the code devchat at Sentry.io to get 2 months free on Sentry's small plan. That's code devchat at Sentry.io. Very cool. Yeah, we actually did an interview with you about that blog post on JavaScript Jabber. It was episode 331, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But yeah, we talked last year. We're recording this in February of 2019, and the episode came out in September of 2018. So anyway, it was really interesting, and it's always interesting just to talk about some of these coding practices that center around different aspects of programming, like testing. But this show, we actually get people's story. We find out where you came from and how you got into code and all that stuff, and really give people a chance to get to know you, because programming is not just you and a computer anymore. It's it's the people and the community and things like that. And so, this was kind of my decision to highlight people out there in the community who are doing cool stuff. So why don't we start out with how you got into programming?
Yeah, so I started writing code when I was 13. I had this software that was called, I think, Wiz or Div or something like this. It was, I believe, Pascal or something. And it was like infrastructure for writing computer games. And I didn't know what I'm doing, but I was really, really determined and really got results. And I had these very, very primitive games that my brother was playing. After that, I didn't program for a long, long time until I got out of the army here in Israel. After I finished the army when I was 21, I started the. Okay, so I was gonna start learning philosophy and something like I don't know, public service or something like this. Or history or something like this. I wasn't sure, like I didn't really want to study computer science because I had some negative stigma about programmers, I think, although I knew that I'm really good at it and I had really, really high grades at school and stuff, but I felt like there's no soul in this kind of fields. But then I actually, just on spite, I decided to I just changed my mind and enrolled to computer science courses in the university, in the Open University of here in Israel. And yeah, so I started programming as part of in the university. After 2 years, I started looking for a company to start actually working in the industry. And I got to the company that I'm working in until actually today. I'm still in this company from when I was a student. I'm in this company for like 7 years.
Wow,
And
that's like forever in developer years.
yeah, definitely. I don't think I know even one other person that works so much time in the same company. So yeah, so the thing with my company is that I had this chance to work on very different projects, because we're we're a software solutions company. So I'm always working on something new. I'm always working with the latest technologies. I got the chance to work with iOS and Android and Windows Phone, and I work with Cordova, and at the time it was like Kikas, I think, or something like this. How was it called?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in jQuery and Angular and later React. And I really think that I worked on almost everything that JavaScript can offer
Nice.
during these 7 years.
Yeah, well, I worked for a consultancy for a little while, and yeah, I mean that was one of the things that was really appealing, was that yeah, I moved from one project to the next and got to try all kinds of stuff. And so it's almost like having multiple jobs, but you get your check from the same place.
Definitely. The interesting thing that I'm started to notice is that the world of software services evolved so much, and we have so much solutions today, that if you stay too long in one place, you kind of become rusty, you
Mhm.
kind of lose your edge. So what people usually do, they just switch jobs. But
Right.
I think the market develops to a place where companies like my company really can offer this technological advantage without changing too much jobs. So, for example, what we do usually is that a developer team comes to us, and we help them to build the first infrastructure of the project, and we help them to decide what technologies to use, and even what procedures to use. Even the procedures today evolve really fast. Scrum today is not what Scrum was like, I don't know, 5 years ago.
Right.
So I think the market in this aspect evolves very interestingly, and just really cool to be part of it.
Yeah, one thing that I'm seeing just with the way that the world's going technology-wise is that I think more and more companies are going to be hiring freelance. Yeah, I mean, they may have the same freelancers work for them for a long time, but I think more and more people are going to want to work from home. They're going to want to work, where they may not even be in the same area that the company they're working for is in. And it'll be easier and easier for people to just hire somebody based on what skills they want and what technologies they need, as opposed to because they work or live near them. And
I agree. Also, my company, we're all remote. We don't even have an office. We all we work mostly with Israeli companies, but not only.
yeah,
So we work a lot in our customers' offices. Like
yeah,
not a lot. Like I mean, like I come to the office like once a week, twice a week, maybe.
right.
But yeah, and also we have people abroad too that are working with us, mostly in Eastern Europe a little, because it's very, very interesting, you know. The moment someone takes a plane to Israel and becomes an Israeli citizen, he starts earning like twice the money that he was earning in Eastern Europe.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, the market forces are very. It's sometimes weird, but that's the world we live in, right?
Yep. Yeah, the thing I think is interesting is it's going to force a lot of the things that you're talking about, right? Where, if you start to stagnate and the company keeps hiring people, then yeah, eventually it's going to become apparent that you're stuck, on old ideas, and that some newer ideas that solve our problems better are going to come in. And yeah, since you're not there, you're not in the office, your competitive advantage is going to be that you can solve problems quickly and efficiently with better technologies as they come along, when they come along. So
yes, but what I see is that companies like our company, we're also really good at marketing. So we come to companies and we tell them, so your programmers are working with the same technology for too much time probably. So maybe consider rebuilding the whole thing, and we can offer you this help. And we really improve these companies and their products. So you might be stagnating, but you can still, even if you work in the same company for a long time, there are ways today to improve. Oh, and by the way, another thing that I noticed is that it's not enough to read, right? So I always thought that it's just enough to read and to keep up with the technology. But from what I see, the experience of working in different projects is very, very important. And that's why I agree with you about freelancers. So they have the chance to actually experience a lot of technologies. And yeah, what I was about to say.
No, I mean, you were agreeing on the opportunities that people have then to grow.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's fine, but I find that a very interesting and compelling discussion on where the industry is going to end up. And I think people are going to have to have different skill sets than they have now, because there are going to be more skill sets than just I drive to my office and then work. You're going to have to be able to communicate in ways that work well for teams that are distributed.
Yeah.
So you get into programming. I'm curious, how did you wind up getting into JavaScript? Was it just a part of getting into the job, or were you already into it, when you were studying computer science, or how did that work out?
Well, I built my so another thing I forgot to mention is that when I was looking for a job, I built a very impressive site from scratch in PHP and JavaScript. I just wrote it with Notepad. It was just today when I look at it and I'm like, wow, it's so. I was really, really determined to do it, and so
Notepad.
yeah. So my boss really saw my potential. He was like, yeah, we don't have juniors here, but I think you're really cool. So yeah, let's do it. And I really, I really liked his experience and his company and his approach, and I really like that it's working from home, because I lived in a small city. I wasn't living like in Tel Aviv at first. I lived in Beersheba, so I started working remotely, and just I had many opportunities, even just in the first year. So yeah, that's how I started. I didn't really knew I didn't really knew the how the industry looks like and what's the options, because at the time I don't think I really found good blog posts or good YouTube videos about it. So I just took the first thing that I saw. I had no idea that JavaScript is going to become as huge as it's today.
Yeah, I don't think anyone saw that coming. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been in the web development community for 12 or 13 years, and I mean, even back then, people were going, "Yeah, well, we have jQuery, right?" And it makes it less painful to deal with, and that was pretty much the extent of it. Yeah, nobody saw it coming.
Yeah, I even remember that when I was looking at salary tables, or how it's called, like how much people earn.
Yeah.
So web development was really, really low at these tables at the time. Okay, not really, really low, but lower than, say, Java or other things, at least here in Israel. And I was really like, I wasn't sure for this reason alone that I want to get into web development specifically. But my boss was really smart and really explained me that that's the thing you want to do. And yeah, I trusted him. Yeah.
Yep, makes sense. So have you adopted more along the lines, because these days it seems like if you're doing JavaScript, unless you're doing like Node Express, you're generally doing front end stuff. So you're doing React or Angular or Vue. Do you have a direction that you've kind of ended up going in?
Yeah, I'm more into React right now. I was working a lot on Node.js, and I was building servers for a long time. But lately, like last 2 years, I'm really, really focused on front end, on React, on really big front end projects. Obviously, it involves backend, but I'm really focusing on the front end. It's just huge. Like in projects that are this big, I'm not sure it's good to work to be full stack, because like if you build a really, really big React website, you have so much issues with performance, for example, and with a lot of things. So I don't know. I really like this. I really like being front end, at least for now. But anything I can work with anything, I guess.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Hey guys, let me tell you about Clubhouse. I swear, I've used every project management software there is out there, and I hated project management software. Now I have Clubhouse. Overall, it's simple and straightforward to use, but has enough of the integrations and power features you need to get the job done without getting confusing. This means that I can use it, and the non-technical members of my team can figure out what they need from it. It also makes it easy for me to zoom out and see what's going on overall before zooming back in and specifying more work that needs to be done, or picking the next task for me to tackle. They integrate with all the systems that you'd expect and have a REST API for, well, the rest. If you go to https://clubhouse.io/JSstory, you can get 2 months free instead of the standard 14-day trial for any team size. Once again, that's https://clubhouse.io/JSstory. So what have you done with JavaScript that you're particularly proud of or excited to talk about?
First of all, I when I started, I worked on a project where they had this SQL database, and it was. I'm proud of it, especially because I did it when I just started, like in my first 3 months, I think. I built this adapter where SQL commands were converted to Node MongoDB commands, and it was very cool. I'm still very proud of it. Although it was a really long time ago. The other thing that I'm really proud of is a library that I built not long ago. It's an open source library. It's called Why Did You Render? So it started from where I was maintaining another project that's called Why Did You Update? That many people probably know because it's considered one of the most important tools in React performance. But when I was working on it, I really didn't like a lot of infrastructural things. So I rewrote the whole thing in the mass cutting edge technologies, and it works very, very nicely. And it reports re-renders very nicely. It's just a very, very good tool for React performance. So
Cool.
I'm very, very proud of it. And also the site that I'm working on right now, it's called Powtoon, powtoon.com. And it's like slideshows, basically. It's like a more complex, but more user-friendly PowerPoint, I guess. And it's very, very cool.
Very cool. And then you've been doing the blogging. I mean, we brought you on to talk about a blog post you wrote. How often do you wind up writing on Medium for your blog?
Not as much as I want, because I have many things that I want to write about, but it takes time, you know. You got to find a way to make it profitable somehow, because otherwise, like today, I spend a lot of my free time to do it.
Right.
But with time, I see how what I can offer to my company with it. So I see how can I make it part of my job, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. I wrote a post about open source in general. I wrote some posts about technological stuff. And just last week, I released the 2019 version of my JavaScript testing article. And I added a lot of information there, especially about, I added a whole new section about visual regression testing, which is a very, very cool thing. And I really like this blog post. It's very, very nice.
Nice. Very cool.
So
what are you working on now? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that AI is AI really enters the testing field. It's a very, very interesting process where manual testers were replaced in a big share of them, at least, were replaced by automated tests. And now AI makes it even better and cooler. So you have, for example, Puffly Tools, which is a very, very cool visual regression testing tool that uses AI to improve what differences in your site are okay, and what differences, like visual differences in your site, are not okay, and you should address them, or you should like confirm or not confirm them. So I think this process will accelerate in the upcoming time, where AI will help us test our applications. Oh, actually, it will also help us program in some point, right? But for now, at least, it will help us to know that our application is not broken.
Yeah, I kind of envision, a couple of things. So if you get the AI to the point where it can determine what the right thing is without having to be explicitly told, I think that is really interesting. And going into testing and having it work out that way is cool. And then, yeah, the other end where it's programming, I've heard some people say, well, AI couldn't possibly take over all aspects of programming. And I think to a certain extent that's correct, but I think, so right now we have refactorings that are built into a lot of the IDEs and things like that, right? So
Yeah.
you change the name somewhere and it changes it everywhere. Or, some of these basic areas of things where, it's extract this to a method or a function.
Yeah, you can actually call it AI, right?
Yeah, but it's really simple. And what I can imagine is you start building out your system, and then the AI comes in, and instead of saying, "Oh, you changed the name of this variable, let me change it. Do you want me to change it everywhere else?" It says, "It looks like you're building the observer pattern. Would you like me to, frame it out for you?"
Yeah, yeah.
And so it fills in whole sections of your code, and it's not just, oh, these three methods on this class. It actually builds out a class structure for you to hang all of your stuff off of.
Yeah, maybe like when you're writing some kind of class, maybe the computer, like your IDE will suggest something like, would you like to split it maybe? Or like, would you like to, I don't know, this part of the code is not covered, but not like covered in this line of the code is not covered. This whole process, for example, is not covered or something like this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that would be cool too. Just in the middle of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, for example, something like
Or I'm not sure how to test this. Can you train me?
yeah, that's interesting. Or maybe even can you please write me a simple class that does X and Y, or can you find a library that can do X and Y, or can you add this utility to my software or something? It can be very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should start a startup,
Yeah, there we go. Because I have all this time to spend on something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the ideas are fascinating. Maybe we just made somebody rich in 10 years. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting to see where that goes. And then also just looking in general at where AI is going to go. I have designs to start probably 6 or 7 more podcasts this year. And the AI podcast is definitely one of those that I would like to see. So,
me too. Yeah, sounds great.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
completely.
So what have you been doing with AI? What specifically? Where have you been fitting that into what you do?
Actually, I didn't really had the chance to work with it.
Okay.
I'm really fascinated because now so in Powtoon we're going to build something like this. We're just planning it. So 2 things. First thing is you have these characters in the presentation, and we want to teach them how to lip sync. So that's a very cool thing that we're going to do.
Uh-huh.
So you just record your song and the characters can sing, right? Yeah. Another thing is that when someone starts a presentation, we want to guess what presentation he wants to start, and to give him not only the presentations that he wants to. Okay, so not only presentations from the subject that he likes, for example, I don't know, medical presentations or presentations for school or something, but also try to style it as he likes. So that's a very cool thing. Another cool thing you can do with AI is just to take a text or something and to let the AI build your presentation, right? And it can even be improved with machine learning. So it can improve over time by comparing what the machine did with what the user then did with what the machine did. So with the final result. So that's the cool thing that we're going to do shortly.
Awesome. Very cool. So one other thing that I usually want to know is just how people can find you online. So it sounds like you're working on some interesting stuff. And yeah, it'd be interesting to have people able to follow that on Twitter or GitHub or whatever, or your blog.
So it's V Zaidman everywhere, like Medium and Twitter and GitHub and LinkedIn and whatever. So yeah, follow me. Will be awesome.
Nice. Do you have any pics you want to share? Anything you want to shout out about on the show?
Yeah. So yeah, two things. First of all, there's this Israeli company that's called Testim.io. It's AI. It's basically like tests with AI. They guess if the test is broken or not by. They have a very, very cool system, and I really, really enjoyed recording tests with their product, because I'm used to record tests with code, and I was kind of a little snobbish even about recording tests with recording tools, because like, yeah, I'm writing code, but it was really, really convenient. So yeah, I'm picking it. And also it's Apply Tools. So
Yeah, I've seen them at some conferences sponsoring.
Yeah, so Apply Tools it's a very, very cool tool too. It's a visual regression testing tool. And actually Testim and Apply Tools has a great integration.
Cool. We'll definitely have to check those out. Maybe even see if we can get them to sponsor the shows or something.
Great.
Awesome. I'm going to throw in a few picks of my own. So I think on the last recording, which was for me a couple hours ago, was released last week, I picked VRBO and the St. George Parade of Homes. One other pick that I have, and this is something that I'm using, funny enough, last weekend, this weekend, and the weekend after, I'm not going to be home for any of those weekends because it's just the way conference schedules worked out. I was actually not planning to go to a conference this weekend, and then Codebeam in San Francisco, they asked me to come and be a track host. So I'm going to be introducing their speakers for one of the tracks on Thursday. And for those who are interested, that's an Elixir and Erlang conference. And so, yeah, that'll be for the Elixir Mix podcast. But anyway, whenever I travel, I wind up booking stuff, and usually it's just hotel and airfare, and so it's not terrible. But I like to be able to make that information available to my wife, and forwarding her emails and then having her sort through her email to find them just is not awesome. So what I've been doing instead is I've been using an app called Tripit, and I'm sure this is old news for a lot of people. I've been using it for a while myself, really like it. But what I do is I just forward any itineraries that I get from I usually fly Delta. So, if I get an email from Delta or an email from whatever website I booked the hotel on or whatever, I forward that in, and then she can see which hotel I'm staying at. She can see when my flights fly out and come back. She has my confirmation numbers. She has the flight number, and it just makes it really, really convenient to travel. And so, so what I wind up doing usually is I'll have the trip in Tripit, and then I will invite her to view the trip. And then anyway, so then she can have it on her own app, or she can just go to tripit.com and see it. So anyway, it's really convenient that way. So I'm going to pick that. And I've rambled a bit about it, but I think I'm going to do one other pick that's less long, or maybe not, depending on how it goes. But I wound up talking to my brother-in-law a lot during this trip. And he and his family have really gotten into Dungeons and Dragons, which has been something that I do with my brothers and sisters. And I've just really, really been enjoying it. So I'm going to pick some of the stuff that I've used there. So my brother has been the dungeon master for the current round that we're playing with my brothers and sisters. And if he wants to keep doing it, I don't think I'm going to volunteer to be the DM. But I have been thinking about like finding some way to organize like an online Dungeons and Dragons group with the listeners, and any listeners that want to show up. I figure that we probably get a decent sized group, but not an overwhelmingly large group. And if there is, then we'll figure something out. But anyway, I've been buying Dungeons and Dragons books, and every time I do it, my wife rolls her eyes. But so I've gotten a bunch of those. I've got the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Player's Guide, and a couple of other books that have different monsters and quests in them. And then I also got if you're playing, one of the things that makes it really nice. Obviously, I don't know that you can do this online. You'd have to have an app that does it. But drawing the maps. So I got a little whiteboard mat that goes on the table, and I took it over when we were playing, with the family, and my brother looked at that and he's like, "Oh, that'll make things easier." So anyway, I'll put links to all this stuff that I've got for Dungeons and Dragons in the show notes. But I've really been enjoying that. So Dungeons and Dragons. It is the 5th edition at this point, but you can get some of the older stuff and play things up as well. So we'll see where we wind up with that. But I guess I'll pick that stuff too. Thanks for coming, Vitali.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been fun to talk, and hopefully we can get you back on JavaScript Jabber and talk more about coding and testing and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, we'll wrap this one up, folks, and we will catch you all next week. Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CacheFly.com to learn more.